BTS debuted under a company that was almost bankrupt. They were not from one of the big three labels that controlled K-pop. They did not have the backing of a corporate machine. Their first music video was performed in front of a small crowd of industry insiders in a country where nobody outside Asia was paying attention to Korean music. Their debut single barely made a dent on the charts, but somehow those 7 boys from South Korea became the biggest boy band on the planet, the first K-pop act to top the Billboard 200, the first Korean group to perform at the Grammys, the first to sell out stadiums across the United States, Europe, and South America, the act that turned their almost bankrupt label into a $4 billion company. So how did 7 trainees from a label nobody believed in conquer the entire world? If you love stories about underdogs who changed an entire industry, subscribe right now because we tell stories like this every single week. Behind the scenes, BTS's rise broke every rule that K-pop was built on. It was not built on manufactured perfection. It was built on vulnerability, on 7 boys who wrote their own lyrics about depression, societal pressure, and self-doubt in an industry where idols were not supposed to have real emotions. On a social media strategy that turned fans into a global army, and on music that spoke to an entire generation that felt invisible. And once you understand how they did it, you will never look at the music industry the same way again. In 2005, music producer Bang Si-hyuk founded a small label called Big Hit Entertainment in Seoul. By 2010, the company was struggling. Physical album sales were declining across the industry. Bang needed a new strategy to survive. He decided to build an idol group, but not the kind the industry was used to. He wanted a group where the members could be individuals, where they could express themselves, where they could write their own music, tell their own story. He found RM first, a 16-year-old underground rapper from Ilsan with an IQ of 148, who had been performing under the name Runch Randa since middle school. RM became the foundation. Then came Suga, an underground rapper from Daegu, J-Hope, a street dancer from Gwangju, Jin, a film student who was literally streetcast while walking to class, V, who showed up to support a friend's audition and ended up auditioning himself, Jimin, the top modern dance student at Busan High School of Arts, and Jungkook, a 15-year-old who was scouted by 7 different agencies after appearing on Superstar K, but chose Big Hit because watching RM rap inspired him. 7 boys, 7 completely different stories, one tiny company that the industry did not take seriously. Chapter 1. The Underdogs. They moved into a cramped dorm together and trained up to 15 hours a day. They practiced choreography until their bodies broke down. They wrote lyrics in notebooks and recorded demos in a small studio. And 6 months before their debut, they did something no K-pop group had ever done. They started posting on social media, Twitter updates, video blogs, song covers on YouTube and SoundCloud. They were building a relationship with fans before a single album existed. But here is the crazy part. On June 13th, 2013, BTS debuted with No More Dream from the single album Too Cool for School. The song was about the pressure Korean students face to sacrifice their dreams for the expectations of their parents. It was raw, it was confrontational, it was not the polished, safe pop that K-pop was known for. And it barely sold. The debut was not a failure, but it was far from a hit. The big 3 labels, SM, YG, and JYP, dominated everything. BTS was an afterthought. Industry insiders dismissed them. Critics ignored them. For the first 2 years, they were fighting just to stay relevant. And this is where things get strange. While the industry looked away, BTS was quietly building the most passionate fan base in the world. They called them ARMY. An army was not just listening to the music, they were translating lyrics, sharing content across every platform, organizing streaming campaigns, turning BTS into a global movement one fan at a time in countries and languages that K-pop had never reached before. Chapter 2. The Breakthrough. In 2015, BTS released the Most Beautiful Moment in Life series. The music became more personal, more emotional. They wrote about mental health, loneliness, the fear of growing up, and the pressure to succeed. Wings arrived in 2016 and sold over 1 million copies, a first for Big Hit. It entered the UK official charts. Billboard started paying attention, but what happened next shocked the entire industry. In 2017, BTS won Top Social Artist at the Billboard Music Awards, beating Justin Bieber, who had held the title for 6 consecutive years. The world noticed. Then Love Yourself Tear debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 in May 2018, the first K-pop album to ever top that chart. Love Yourself Answer followed and became the first Korean album certified platinum by the REAA. But here is what made BTS truly untouchable. They performed at Citi Field in New York, the first Korean act to play a US stadium. They spoke at the United Nations about self-love and youth empowerment. They launched the Love Myself campaign with UNICEF to fight violence against children. They were not just pop stars, they were becoming cultural leaders. No. But BTS's biggest moment was still coming, and it would arrive during the darkest period the world had seen in decades. Chapter 3: Global Domination. In August 2020, in the middle of a global pandemic, BTS released Dynamite. Their first all-English single debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the first K-pop song to ever reach that position. Then Life Goes On became the first Korean language song to debut at number 1 on the Hot 100. Then Butter spent 10 weeks at number 1. Then Permission to Dance hit number 1. 4 number 1 singles in under a year. But BTS took things even further. They were named Special Presidential Envoys by the South Korean government. They spoke at the United Nations General Assembly. They visited the White House to discuss anti-Asian hate crimes with President Biden. Their label went public in the biggest South Korean IPO in 3 years, valued at over $4 billion. Each member received shares worth nearly $8 million. Map of the Soul 7. BE. Proof. Grammy nominations, sold-out stadium tours across 4 continents. Over 40 million albums sold, billions of streams, the first K-pop act to be nominated for a Grammy, the youngest recipients of the Order of Cultural Merit from the South Korean government. Featured on the cover of Time magazine as next generation leaders. In 2022, BTS announced a hiatus to pursue solo careers and fulfill military service obligations. Each member released solo projects that charted globally. Jungkook performed at the FIFA World Cup opening ceremony. RM released Indigo featuring Erykah Badu. Suga toured the world as August D. And in 2025, the reunions began, proving that the bond between 7 boys from a tiny label was unbreakable. Now, they became the biggest by breaking it, by being vulnerable when the industry demanded perfection, by speaking about pain when idols were expected to smile, by treating their fans as partners instead of consumers. The world told 7 boys from a nearly bankrupt company that they would never compete with the big 3 labels, that Korean music would never cross the language barrier, that the West would never take them seriously. They did not fight the doubters. They just kept making music that made people feel seen. And it turned out that feeling seen is not limited by language, country, or continent. And that is how 7 boys from South Korea conquered the entire world. If this story gave you chills, drop a like and subscribe. We tell stories like this every week. The next one is even crazier.